All right. We were trying to do this video yesterday, but we got interrupted. But it's okay because LaFond was like, I wasn't doing too well. So we're going to try again. This is for Uncouth Boy. All right. Once again, he was asking about husband, the idea of the husband being a slave, a domestic slave, right? The and doing the work like what a servant would do. Well, this is in your wheelhouse because you are the one that basically explained what the root of the word husband comes from. So I'll let you take it from her.
Well, it's housebound, and it's in, let's say, Middle Eastern cultures or old Anatolian cultures. It seems like, and with the Scythians, it seems like it was the plight of the lower class man who was a slave to be bound to a house, to have to work the area, and basically be a serf. What would in the Middle Ages be a serf? But high functioning warrior societies like the Germans and the Romans,
That's right.
the Germans, the woman was in charge of the house and would come and observe the battle and even cheer or shame, her husband on.
Uh-huh.
And then the women would dress the wounds. The mothers and women of the warriors would dress their wounds, and they would compare. Well, how many cuts did your husband have? How many puncture wounds did your husband have? My husband is braver. He was injured more. He was injured only in the front, and
How
so
typical.
on. So you would have this going on, and Germans that threw their shields away and ran away would very often hang themselves in shame. The women wouldn't even welcome them back into the house.
Yeah, I'm for that. What, you nuts? How you throw your shield away?
So the Iroquois, who lived under a lot of Nordic influence,
Yes, thank you.
they also had this situation where the women ran the house and the men were the most feared warriors in the area.
Because they're trying to get out of the house, get away from these broads.
And the Germans institutionalized this in a way that Alexander had pioneered. When they conquered a territory, the Romans, they would settle their veterans down with local women. So you're 40, 50-year-old guy, you're done with your service, they give you an 18-year-old girl, you start a family. So you're starting a family kind of late, and you're supposed to be giving birth to sons. They're going to be able to speak Latin, and they're also going to be able to speak the mother's native language. So they're going to be like border guards or
Buffer.
border legions. And
That's what I am, essentially.
their strategy made a lot of sense, because what the Romans did that Alexander didn't was they didn't let their soldiers marry until they retired. It was part of the promise that you would get a farm and you would get a wife when it was done, and you're also a pensioner. So this was an example of three of these societies where their enemies had a great fear of them, because, and the Spartans did the same thing, where the women would tell their son, come back with your shield on it, don't throw it away. So this is really an Aryan thing that you pretty much just see with Aryans, and
the elves.
And it accounts for a lot of battlefield dominance with the men, but also it accounts for a high incidence of rule by queens.
Yeah.
And this, at least in the Western world, when a woman runs a country, that country is roughly 30% more likely. It is going to be war, aggressive war, 30% more often than a country that's run by a man. So that does seem to be the negative side of it if you're against imperialism. But if you think imperialism is great, then having Gloriana as your queen, that's the next step up. Now you have a whole nation of little Spartas with each region mustering their division or their regiment or battalion, and these guys being sent out to war and fighting for Queen Mum.
Well,
You
I
know?
will say, the three most bloodthirsty empires in history, as we see, you could argue have a lot of female representation, and lots of the men that are very female in terms of their energy, let's say.
Again, the downside, once that empire does well, this reverence for the matriarch
Yeah.
and the heroization of the woman over the man, that's a luxury that is provided by conquest and dominance. And then you get the down cycle.
Well, you had mentioned that this what is good for when you're a band of warriors running around becomes almost like a self-destroyer when you become civilized. Okay, and now you have put what other cultures haven't, who've lasted longer as civilizations. You now have a problem where your Karens, these great women, are exhorting you to come home on your shield or on it or whatever. Well, now they're selling you out to teenage youths and stuff like that. So that, to me, I always say with the elves, as someone who's half elf myself, right? Essentially, we have to either kick ass or we get on our knees and become worse than friggin' Chinese, and that's not how you have longevity on this planet. That's my opinion. All right, guys, remember, against the goddess.